But now, as you can see, in year 41, and when you're 65 years old, and your account balance is worth $1,017,863, you've only put in 48% of that money. The rest came from dividends. Hey, what's up guys, it's Mike. Good morning everyone, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we're gonna answer the question of how much does it take in terms of the amount invested to earn $10,000 a year annually in dividends, and that's coming up in this video. If you're just joining us for the first time, I just wanna say welcome, and I wanna say welcome to all the new subscribers. If this is your first time here, we make videos that cover finances, investing, taxes, and more. I have a really cool spreadsheet I'm about to go over with you that I've just built. I thank you, all of you, for being here today and taking time to watch these videos. If you want to support the work I do, you can do so simply by dropping a like, leaving a comment below, and making sure you're subscribed. And if you do subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so you get notified when I post a new video. Someone asked me just the other day, they said, Mike, what is dividend investing? And dividend investing, if you're new to this, it's simply a strategy or way to invest. It's an investing philosophy whereby you as an investor, you purposely and intentionally buy shares of stocks, ETFs, or mutual funds that pay you dividends. What you'll find is some stocks pay dividends and others do not. It's a very passive way, very simple way, but very slow way to build wealth. And it is a very slow process if you don't have a lot to invest, but it's a process nonetheless that's gonna help you build wealth, and it's probably the most passive income available, and it takes less management than owning a rental real estate. Some people love rental real estate, others hate it. Well, dividend investing is an alternative to that, whereby you earn your money from your job or your business or wherever, you invest it, and you watch your money grow and your investments grow over time so that one day you can walk away from your current employment or current business and still have an income coming in for the rest of your life, because that's the overall concept of dividend investing. I'm gonna include timestamps down below if you wanna skip ahead, but this spreadsheet I've built, it took me, I wanna say like 3 to 4 hours to build this. A lot of variations. I don't claim it to be mathematically perfect. It's not. I did the best I could with the knowledge I have of Excel. I'm sure some of you out there can build this a lot better than I can. But nonetheless, I took the concepts I know of investing, how these things work, and have programmed them into a spreadsheet that calculates a compounding interest formula that includes the average annual dividend rate, which we're going to talk about, the compounding dividend growth rate, which we're going to talk about, and various other factors like how much you can invest per month, your age, where you're starting from, and so on and so forth, as you're about to see. So many of you came here just because you want to see how to make $10,000 a year annually in dividends, and really what it comes down to is how much money does it take to invest. Now, you can look at this in one of two ways. Some people like to view this equation based on how many shares of stock they buy, how many shares of stock it takes. I like to view it from a money perspective of really how much money do I need to invest to buy X number of shares that produce me X amount of dividends, and to whereby I can make that much annually or monthly in dividends or whatever my desired goal is. When making $10,000 a year in dividends annually, I'm in this simple example, I'm using really conservative numbers here, very conservative numbers that I think often understate what you can actually achieve. But I want to make this conservative, so whereby you have I'd rather have you be conservative and think you need to invest more than investing too little and not having the money be there when you're ready to retire. But having an average starting yield of 3%. So what that means is when you buy a dividend stock, or a stock, I should say, when you buy stock or an ETF that pays dividends, it pays dividends at different rates. So let's say you hold 10 different companies. You own Microsoft, Apple, you own a couple of real estate investment trusts, like the O Realty Corporation Trust, or you own a healthcare REIT or something like that. Maybe you own Johnson & Johnson that pays the dividends. Maybe you own Home Depot. So you own these, let's just say 10 different companies or 10 different ETFs that pay dividends. Well, each of those investments are going to pay you dividends at a different rate. one of them might pay you 5%, one of them might pay you 3%, 1%, 2%. So, but it all averages out to an average amount, so that on average you receive, of all those different amounts, let's just say you receive an average yield of 3% when you look at it from a global perspective. 3%. And this spreadsheet is designed where you can tweak the interest rate to whatever you want, or tweak the dividend rate to whatever you want it to be, and the spreadsheet updates automatically. And then let's talk about compounding dividend growth real quickly, because that's really imperative for this conversation. When I'm trying to have a conversation with people about how much they need to invest to earn a certain amount in dividends, it's hard to explain to them without visually showing them this, that you don't have to invest as much as you think you do. The younger you start, the less you need to invest, because what's going to happen is your money is going to work for you. You're going to get the average dividend yield of whatever this is, okay, which we're saying 3% here. And then the cool part about dividends, and I express this in another video, which I'll make sure to link that below, check it out, is that dividends aren't like a set amount of interest. It's not a flat interest rate. Companies that pay dividends actually pay, usually, not always, but usually pay more the longer you hold them. And so when you start off, you buy a share of stock, that the first year you hold that stock, it might pay 45 cents per share. The next year, that same stock you hold, it's going to pay you 50 cents per share. And the year after that, it's going to pay you 55 cents. And so it keeps increasing if it's a good, healthy company. American Water Works is a great example of that, whereby every year they increase their dividends by about 10%. And they've done that for, I think, the last 10 years. That's one example. And for example, last year they paid 50 cents per share, and this year I think they're paying 55 cents per share in dividends. So those are just some concepts to keep in mind. But you don't want to just invest for high yields. You want to invest in safety, and you want to invest in a solid foundation. A company that is healthy financially, has a strong business model, a business model that is sustainable, is essential to the economy, essential for people's well-being, so that it continues to deliver services and products, whatever they do, for a long period of time, well into the future, and can stand the changing economic environments and social environments that we currently are facing each and every year, different circumstances. But that is essentially the concept of compounding dividend growth, is that the initial shares of stock you buy, the longer you hold them, the more likely they are to pay you more and more and more money every year. You just buy and hold. That's essentially the strategy. And then it's a matter of how much you need to invest every month and how quickly you can get there based on your personal financial budget and your current financial situation. I understand a lot of people are going through really hard times right now due to the virus and everything going on in the economy. So please, I understand, you might not be able to do this right now. And I always encourage people to just do what you can, okay? Do what you can, and have this idea in mind that or to help motivate you to do whatever you need to do to get out of that funk, that financial funk. Whatever you can do to get back on your feet, or when you can ever get back on your feet, then please use this to see okay, this is what I can do once I'm back on my feet. This is what I want to do with my finances to get back on good footing. I know there's a lot of people struggling right now, and I don't want to discount that. Now let's talk about how much it takes and maybe how long it takes to earn $10,000 a year in dividends, and I'll show you just a rough example of where I'm at in the process. Okay, in this example we're using, pretend your average starting yield when you buy various shares of stock, it averages to about 3% of all the different types of companies you own or ETFs you own. That's your average annual yield in your portfolio. Now, most companies pay dividends quarterly, so this spreadsheet is designed to show that on a quarterly basis, okay? That's the majority of dividend-paying companies you will find, and I have found they do pay quarterly and not monthly. I'm going to leave the average compounding dividend growth rate at just 0.5%. That's very conservative. It's very low. Usually, the average is 3 to 5%, but I'm just going to leave it at a conservative 0.5%, and we'll go with that. And this example is investing $1,000 per month. Let's just say you're starting from zero and you want to invest $1,000 a month in a dividend portfolio. And how long will it take you doing that based on these rates to get you to $10,000 a year in passive income? Well, let's look at this. So what we see here is you start at zero. And so each year you're investing a total of $12,000. Now, when you first start, there's no dividends coming in. And each row you're going to see it adds up takes you from your beginning balance to your new ending balance from month to month, as you're going to see how it goes. You invest 1,000, your ending balance is 1,000. Then in month 2, you invest another 1,000, your ending balance is 2,000. Still, you notice in month 2, no dividends are paid. But finally, at the end of March, let's just say, for example, you start to receive your first set of dividends. You receive $15 in dividends. And then once again, in June, so you keep investing, and finally in June, you start to receive more dividends. So now you have more shares of stock working for you and paying you dividends. And the same is true all the way down to September and December. So in the first year, you invest, let's say, about $12,000, and you earn, let's say, $196.35 in this example. That's where you start. It starts off small, but then it grows. What you'll notice over here that I've programmed this spreadsheet up here so that you can enter your age, whatever it is. Let's say you're 25. Most people, I think they start to have money to invest once around 25, 26, 27, 28. I didn't really get started routinely, consistently, as I've mentioned in my other dividend investing videos, until I was about like 28, 29 years old. That's when I really said, okay, let's go for this. Let's do this. And that's when I started to get consistent. But do what you can. And so if you enter your age here, then it'll track your age down here. So you'll know what age you'll be and where you're going to end up. But when you go through this, in the first year you've invested $12,000 and you've made $196 in dividends. In year 2 now, your set of shares that you bought in year 1 are now paying you more due to that average compounding dividend growth rate, which we're saying is 0.5%. So now instead of them paying you 3% on average, now they're paying you 3.015% more. Okay, that's what they're paying. When you buy the new shares, the starting yield for those, though, still might be only 3% or 2.9%. But for the sake of this example, we're sticking with 3%, and that's just what it is. Whereas your older shares, of course, will pay you slightly more. So by the end of year 2, you're at now age 26 in this example. You've invested $24,000, and now you're making about $600 a year in dividends. In year 3, we can see our rate continues to go up. You've now invested $36,000, and you're making just under $1,000 in dividends. And let's skip ahead. As you can see, in year 4, you're doing the same process. You're making about $1,300 in dividends. Year 5 is $1,700, and all the way down, if we go all the way to, now, the more you invest, obviously, the faster you're going to achieve these results. That's just a math. At the end of the day, it's just a mathematical computation. This is just to help you see far out into the future of what you do now, how it impacts your future later. So whatever you can do now to get this ball rolling, the better off you'll be. So all the way down to year 19 or 20 is when, if you're investing just $1,000 a month, you're getting an average yield of 3%. Then in year 20, you would start to make $10,000 a year annually in dividends. And if you started at age 25, you would be 44, and you would have invested around $240,000 of your own money. But your account balance, though, in year 20, when you're making this amount of dividends, is $332,215. So if we look at what percentage of that investment, of the $332,000, came from your own money, not dividends. Well, we take $240,000, we divide that by $332,215. So you've contributed about 72% of that money over 20 years is what you've put in. But what you're going to see, though, is the longer the time horizon you have to invest. If you keep doing this, let's just go all the way down to year 40 now. Year 40. What does that do? If we go to year 40, if you just continue this process all the way through, you're now if you started at age 25, you're now at age 64, you've now invested $480,000. Your account balance is just under $1 million now. In fact, let's go down to year 65. Here we go. Year 65, you've been doing this for 41 years, and now you have $1 million in your account. and you're making $33,000 a year in dividends. And so of that amount, you can see quickly that $492,000 is about half of that. So when you only had 20 years to invest, you had to put in 70% roughly, or 72% of your own money to hit that goal. But if you have 40 years to invest, then you don't have to use as much of your own money. The dividends are going to grow and work for you. You're just going to keep reinvesting it into the same set of shares of stock or different set of shares with whatever you want to do. But now, as you can see, in year 41, and when you're 65 years old and your account balance is worth $1,017,863, you've only put in 48% of that money. The rest came from dividends. And of course, the longer the time horizon, the less and less of your money you physically need to put in. It's just having your money work for you. And that's the beauty and the concept of dividend investing. Okay, now I would like to share a bit more about my dividend investing journey with you. And this is kind of how I tested that spreadsheet I was showing you on screen. Is for the past 7 years, I've been tracking our dividend income for my wife and I. Now, as you know, if you watch my other videos, we have a taxable brokerage account and 2 Roth IRAs. So we have 3 investment accounts we're using to implement this dividend investing strategy as much as we can. And in year 6, so what I had to do is I looked at year 6 is where at the end of 2000, which is the end of 2019, and I had to look back at roughly how much did I have invested in 2019 and how much did I make in dividends? Well, we made just under $5,000 in dividends, this $4,978. And so now what I had to do is go back into this spreadsheet that I was using to show you in this video and kind of say, okay, well, how do I start from zero and get to where I'm at, roughly? So what I did is I looked at the total amount invested, and of the total amount invested, I had to say, okay, well, how much of that amount was invested in ETFs or companies that actually pay dividends? That was the number I was looking for. And this is what I've arrived at. So this is basically our current setup right here. This is what we're doing. And we've been doing this now for, well, I think we're in year 7 now. But this is essentially, and it wasn't perfectly like this, but eventually got to this monthly average of this. And, I don't know when we started exactly, but we were around 29 years old is when we started. Wish I had started earlier, but here we are. And so in year 6, what I did is I came down to year 6 at the end of 2019, and I looked for that total amount invested, and this is roughly what I saw on my spreadsheet at the end of 2019, my total cost basis in companies that paid dividends. And using the spreadsheet and using those numbers, we arrived at $4,955, which is like $20 away from what I actually reported on my dividend tracking spreadsheet. So that's our trajectory right now. That's basically where we're at. And that was a big part of the reason I made this spreadsheet, is not only for you, but for me as well, as a tool to say, okay, well, what if I change my course? What can I do differently to make this grow faster? And of course, and that's what this is here for, is to help motivate you to think of, okay, what can I do to invest more on a monthly basis, or at least on a more routine basis? What in my budget can I cut? What expenses, where am I spending money that I really don't need to? What do I really need? That nice car? Do I really need that nice watch? Do I really need all those electronics? But rather, wouldn't it be cool if instead I can use that money and invest it and have my assets, my dividend producing assets someday, provide me those things, and also provide me a lifestyle whereby I no longer have to work as hard. Or because I enjoy working and I want to continue working as long as I can, but I want to have, like many of you, I just want to have more options in terms of what type of work I do. And I think that's really important. And that's what I wanted to share with you in this video. All right, guys, well, I'm going to wrap up the video here, but hopefully that answers your question. If you want to make $10,000 a year in dividends annually, you're going to have to personally invest about $240,000, roughly, somewhere within that range, somewhere near that amount to make this much annually in dividends. But of course, the total amount invested will be $332,000, because you're going to have a lot of your money will be working for you at that point. And if you do $1,000 per month, it's going to take you about 20 years to get there. So the faster you can invest, the more you can invest, the larger and quicker your account will grow. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like below, comment below. Let me know what you're doing to build your retirement. If dividend investing is one of them, I would love to hear your feedback and how you track it or where you're at in your journey. It's always inspiring to me and I think to others to hear your story. This is my story, but I love so much more hearing about what you're doing and where you're at in your journey. I love you all. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next video, and live life uncaged. Peace.